Hey gang, Aaron Fisher here with a very special episode of the Card Magic Minute. Now, as you may know, we're just a couple weeks away from the launch of my brand new 8-week live online interactive course called Mastering Double Lifts and Turnovers. It's a very exciting program, and to commemorate it, I'm doing a special series of Card Magic Minutes designed to share with you some very specific techniques, concepts, and ideas which can beautify your double lift and turnover, which can get you more fun and effective results out of it and give you a taste of the specific kinds of things you'll be getting personal support and training in if you choose to join us for the 8-week course. Now, I want to warn you as we get into this tutorial, I want you to watch this soon because these special tutorials are not going to be posted forever. So that being said, let's begin. And today what we're going to talk about is the double lift and turnover and the difference between the double lift and the turnover. Now, I don't know if this applies to you, but many of today's card workers that I know either think that there is no difference between the double lift and the turnover, or they think that the difference doesn't really mean anything. More often, people do the double turnover, most often pretty badly. They most often get caught doing it or at least raise suspicion in the audience doing it. And if you ask them what they're doing, they'll say, maybe I'm doing the double turnover, but they might also say, oh, that they're doing the double lift. They think what they're doing is a double lift. Now, the double lift is hundreds of years old, whether you're holding the cards here at the edge or whether you're holding the cards at the corner here. This is a hundreds of years old idea. And if you want to just do a quick display, right? Maybe that's not so bad. But if you want to do an extended display of a double lift, almost always you got to keep the card moving because there's a danger that people are going to see the edges, or if you're holding by the corner, there's a big danger that the cards are going to split. And I'm sure that this was even worse hundreds of years ago before there were modern card making processes that everyone knows about today. Now, the double turnover was developed in the early part of the last century, around the 20s, by the New York card expert Arthur Finley, friend of Vernon's. This is where Vernon first saw the double turnover. Now, the wonderful thing about the Arthur Finley concept, which of course I don't have his exact technique, we have Vernon's technique, which is primarily what I'm talking about here, but the wonderful thing about the double turnover is that you're getting everything that you used to get before that from a perfect double lift in terms of display quality, in terms of cleanliness, without any of the dangers associated with the double lift, right? Because that card is turned over on the deck, look at that. In effect, I have a double lift. I'm cleanly displaying the face of the card. I'm completely natural because I'm pointing to it and I'm displaying it here. I'm talking. You know, that's not your card. I'm going to show you something really amazing here. I'm not holding a break. I'm not controlling the card in any way. And that really is just as important to creating the effect in the audience's mind of a real transformation, right? Or a real magical effect, whether it's the ambitious card or two-card transposition or changing the wrong card into the right one, as the switch itself, because this is the part where the audience really sees the card and believes that there's no trickery afoot. Notice I'm not holding a break, right? It doesn't feel like I'm holding a break because I'm using the Vernon technique we discussed with that bend placed in the card. I don't have to, which is, of course, the genius of the Vernon technique. I don't have to hold the card up here when I do the double turnover, even if I hold the cards in my hand. Look, it's open. It's what they would call an open dealing position, right? It's not this. I'm not in transit going somewhere trying to make sure that I keep my break and don't display the cards too cleanly because then I have to re-get my break again because of that Vernon bend. I can relax. In fact, I can go a step further. I can leave the cards on the table for an extended period of time. I can introduce an effect. I can say, now that's not your card, but you know, ever since I was a little boy, I have magic abilities. I'm going to show you what they are. And then after a suitable interval, we know that this card is burned into the audience's mind. We know that they know it's the 5 of clubs in a way that no amount of explanation or pleading could ever convince them. We know it. And then, right, the beauty of the double turnover, and especially that Vernon technique, is that you can pick up those cards and without any further whatnot at all, you can say, hold out your hand. There's nothing left to do. It's just super clean. It's super magical. And you can really, really amaze people with that. And that is the point of the double turnover, right? Because you're turning the card over twice. You have to do 2 sleights compared to the double lift, of course, which is really just one simpler one. But the double lift doesn't get you that same clarity, that same delay, that same chance to craft the effect in the audience's experience, right, as you get with the double turnover. So it's a little bit harder, that double turnover, but you get so much more out of it if you take the time to use it, to squeeze that fruit until you get all the juice out of it, right? Now, I don't know if it happened in the 70s during the packet craze or in the 80s, but something started to happen where the double turnover became ubiquitous. And all sorts of techniques came about where people are getting breaks on the fly. They're holding the break. They're not waiting very long. They're turning the card over. They're moving. Maybe it's because they're doing an ambitious card routine where they want to do 8 of these double turnovers in like 3 minutes or some other reason. But what's happening now is when that happens is you have people doing the hard part of the double turnover, which is repeating the same move twice, which is a lot like breaking into the same candy store 2 nights in a row. But they're not getting the cleanliness. They're not breaking it up. They're not creating that clear effect that makes the whole thing work. And they're doing the harder technique at the same time and getting less out of it. Now, the double turnover is more difficult to learn than the double lift. But if all you're going to do is a brief display, if all you're going to do is a display of the same length as those fast double turnovers I was just doing, 5 of clubs, hold out your hand, there's no reason in the world to learn a double turnover, right? There's no reason in the world to do the double turnover. You're just quickly displaying the card and place it into the hand, right? That's a double lift. That's what it's for. Now, as it happens, as I discussed before, when I teach students and when we work through this 8-week course, we build concept on concept slowly so that you learn one skill at a time. One of the problems is when people set out to learn the double turnover, there's like 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 different skills, depending on how you want to break it up, in one double turnover. And one of the reasons we have such problems doing it is that you can't learn that many skills at once, or at least not effectively. So I prefer a teaching approach where we learn 1 or 2 simple skills at a time. First, we got to worry about getting a break and how to cover that and how to make sure to use real misdirection when we're getting that break. That's the stuff that really counts. So I teach my students, and one of the things we're going to do in the 8-week course is we're going to take the time to work not just on getting the break, but that double lift first, which in and of itself is much easier than getting a break. It's also much easier than the double turnover. And it's also really effective, and it gives you a chance to learn how to hold 2 cards in alignment on the deck, how to push the cards over, or at least look like you're pushing the card over. And I'll give you a few hints on what that technique looks like right here. We'll assume you have a break, right? Like this. And your thumb position is going to be here. Not here, not here. It's going to have a lot of thumb right there, so it's near the center of the deck, right? My second finger and my thumb are going to come to the front and back edge of the pack, right there at the outer joint of the second finger, and the joint of the thumb right there. And I'm going to move that card over, right? And of course, the big deal here is you've got that little triangular space caused by the pinky. So as you move that card over, what you want to do is lower the left fingers. You want to lower those left fingers so that as this comes over, there's nothing pressing up on that card, because as we learned in the last one of these, if you're just learning this, pressing up there is guaranteed to make these things split. Later, it won't be guaranteed to make them split. Once you have more skill and confidence with this, you'll be able to do all kinds of stuff. But when you're learning, you don't even want to worry about that, right? So, you grab that double, you lower those fingers, you drag that straight over. And what's nice about that is when the thumb comes along, and this is a Vernon idea to the best of my knowledge, it really looks like that thumb is pushing that card over. It isn't. I'm moving the card over with my right fingers. But because the thumb is coming along for the ride, it looks great. Now, there's 2 things going on in terms of keeping this card in perfect alignment. And please remember, if you don't keep the card in perfect alignment, you're never going to get it back during the course of the double turnover. So it's very important. So one of the first things we're working on in class is learning how to hold that card in perfect alignment, right? So the 2 secrets to that at this point are one, the first finger of the left hand. When I move this card over, I'm holding it in a straight line against that first finger. It's like a little track that it runs across. And the second thing is that left thumb. When it lands, it learns how to press straight down, straight down. And those are the things you have to work on first. Once you get to that point, it's a pretty easy matter to show the card and drop it back on the deck. In fact, it's so easy, that's the method that's been taught for young kids who walk into magic stores learning the Svengali deck since the beginning of time. So my suggestion is, first, take the time to master and get comfortable with all the little things that are required to do a double lift. Then, as you get comfortable with those things and you're looking for a new challenge, right? Then begin getting into the double turnover. And when you get into that double turnover, keep in mind the whole time that the whole point of learning those extra skills is to get the extra quality of effect that comes from being able to have a nice, leisurely, clear display of the face-up card before the second half of the double turnover switch out. And of course, that's the progression we use when I work with students, and that's the way that the 8-week course, Mastering Double Lifts and Turnovers, is structured, so that in between each one of our sessions, you have clear exercises to work on. Then we come back a couple of weeks later, we dig back in, we polish, we refine, we correct the things that need correction, we answer your questions, and then we move a little forward and stack the technique up piece by piece, so that by the end of the 8-week course, you really do have a sense of confidence and skill that comes with having gone about it the old-fashioned right way. So that's it for this particular episode of the Card Magic Minute. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard, please go to aaronfishermagic.com/coaching.htm and click the button that says Group Lessons to find all about how you can join us and enroll in this 8-week course. We're going to place the link to the course also just below this YouTube video in the description block. There'll be a link directly to the group course there too. If you have any questions or comments, you can email me. I'm Aaron at Aaron Fisher Magic. And thank you so much for watching and having a real interest in this material. And I certainly hope that I get to see you in class very soon.